everyone. Today we will be talking about how we can complete the vertical alignment for eastbound on ramp. So as you can see right here in Inroads, I have the file from master files, chapter 9, which is, let me check, tutorial 2D profile DGN. So this is under chapter 9 in the master files. I have it open, and as you can see, we have all of the profiles in here, and then we're going to use those profiles to create the vertical alignments. And we will be going over eastbound on ramp. So if we go over the steps in the book first, they ask you to create a level for the eastbound on ramp, which is this one over here. So we're going to go to level manager, and then we're going to create a new layer. And then we're going to call it eastbound on ramp vertical alignment, and then just give it whatever color you want. Set it active, and then make sure that this layer is active because your vertical alignment will be under this layer. Okay, so now that you have eastbound on vertical alignment level on, we're going to go ahead and start creating the geometry that we will be using to create the vertical alignment for eastbound on ramp. So at first, we're going to identify the point with the elevation 2,996.52. In order to do that, we're going to start by drawing a line at 2,990 because this is the closest to that elevation that we want. So as you can see here, we have 2,990. We're going to create our line that goes across the profile. And now that we have our line at 2,990, we're gonna use the command copy parallel to get this elevation that we need, which is 2,996.52. In order to get this elevation, we're gonna find the difference between the elevation that we have right now on the profile and the elevation that we want. The difference would be 6.52, and then times 5, we get 32.60 because we have a vertical exaggeration of 5. So whatever difference we multiply by 5 before we do the copy parallel. So we're going to do the copy parallel command. And then the distance should be 32.60. And we will be copying this line upward. So now that we have the elevation, we can go ahead and delete the 2,990 line. At the intersection point between station 10 and the 2,996.52, we're going to create a line that has 1% slope going upward. In order to create this line, they don't mention it here, but you have all the triangles that you need to create all of the slopes for the rest of the chapter. You have them, I think, in the Laguna Canyon profile. So you can go back to that profile. So in order to create a 1% slope, we're going to start by creating a line that has a length of 200, going horizontal, and then we're going to go vertical, a distance of 10. And now we connect the triangle, and that would give us the 1% line. Now you can go ahead and just delete the triangle I created. So now we're done with the first point over here, or the first segment, which is this one over here. One thing you can do right now, you can either do it now or later, is extend the line. So I'm going to use the extend command and then just extend this line. Now we're going to go and create segment 3. To create segment 3, it should be an elevation of 3,041.45. As you can see on this figure 9, 59. So now we're gonna go to the end of the profile. We have elevation 3041, so we're gonna go to 3040. We're gonna create a line in here. And then we're gonna copy parallel this line to get the elevation that we want. So I'm not sure if they mention what elevation you need to copy parallel to. They don't, no, they actually mention it over here. But if they didn't mention it, it would be 3041.31 minus 3040 times 5, and that's how you find the distance. Okay, so now we do copy parallel. Again, we use the value that they gave us, which is 7.25. And we copy parallel this line over here. Okay, so now that we have this line, we need to create a 1% downward line that intersects between, which starts at the intersection point between the elevation of 3041.45 and the end of the profile. So one thing we need to do is find this intersection point, and then we need to create a point that starts at the end of the profile. And that intersects with the elevation line that we created. So now that we have our line, we want to create a slope line of 1%, just as a line in segment 1. We're going to create a triangle that goes horizontal 200, vertical 10 to get the 1% slope. Okay. So we're going to start at the intersection point. 200 horizontal, going 10 vertical, and then we're going to close the triangle. And now we have the 1% slope. Just as I did with segment 1, I'm going to extend this line because we're going to create a line in the middle. And that line in the middle, when extended, it will intersect with both these lines. I'm going to delete all of the lines that I copied parallel to create these two slope lines, which are segment 1 and 3, because right now I'm going to start creating segment 2, and I don't want to mistake one of these lines with the lines that I need to create for segment number 2. So if you go down, segment number 2 is a line that extends, or that starts at this point over here and then ends at this point over here. And then for each point, they give you the station and elevation. So you find that intersection point. And here we have number 1, intersection point number 2. You create a line between these 2 points, extend it, and that's how you get your segment number 2. One thing you need to know is for stations, you don't have to multiply by anything. But for elevations, as I said, we have a vertical elevation, a vertical exaggeration of 5. So whatever copy parallel distance you need to do on the vertical axis, you need to multiply by 5. So we're going to start by creating a line. I'm going to start by creating lines for the stations and then for the elevations, and then I'm going to copy parallel those lines and create the segment number 2 line from there. So the first station is 14 plus 84. Since we have full elevations, I'm going to create the line at station 14. So I'm going to go from the bottom to the top. We have station 22 plus, so I'm going to create the line at station 22. We have the first elevation at 3001, so I'm going to create a line at 3000. And then we have 3033, so I'm going to create a line at 3030. Okay, so the first elevation, the first station is 14 plus 82.30. We have 14, so we need to copy parallel this line, 82.30, because as I said, you don't need to multiply by anything. So once you enter the rest of the station, you copy parallel, and that is the first station line. The second line is 22 plus 79.97. So we're going to go to the 22 line, and then we're going to copy parallel 79.97. And here we have our second station. For the elevations, as I said, we need to multiply by 5. So we have the first one, 3001.34 minus 3000 would give us 1.34. Multiply by 5, it will give you 6.7. And then for the second one, the difference would be 3.25. Multiply by 5, it will give you 16.25. And right now we have all of the lines that we need to create the second segment. I'm just going to delete all the lines that I don't need so I don't mistake them for the lines that I need to use to create the segment. Okay, so now I'm going to create a line that intersects with, between the first intersection point, which is 14 plus 82.30 and 3001.34. So it'd be this point over here. And as you can see, it also intersects with the 1% line that we created for segment 1. So here we have our first line, and then our second intersection point would be this point over here. Once we're done, we have our 3 segments. I know they don't look like the profile that you have in, or like the segments that you have in figure 960B, but if you extend the lines, you will get this figure over here. So we will be extending the lines right now. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna extend the lines to the intersection point. From both sides. Okay, and now we have the shape that you see in figure 960 over here. We have great segment number 1, number 2, and number 3. Now we're gonna construct parabolic fillet. So if you go, it's under fillet groups. So we have circular, we have parabolic. We're gonna create parabolic, and then the first one has a distance of 600. Horizontal, and then you're gonna select the segment number 1 and then segment number 2. The second one has the distance of 500 between segment number 2 and segment number 3. And here we have it over here. Okay, so now that we are done, we're gonna import the geometry project. And well, first we're gonna create a complex chain, and then we're gonna import the geometry project to the geometry that we have, which is a complex chain to create the vertical alignment for eastbound on ramp. So under groups, you have create complex train. Once you click on it, identify elements to add to the complex train, and make sure you use create complex train, not create complex train. Okay. So once you click on it, as you see in here, they ask you to select segment 1, segment 2, and segment 3. Do not select the curves. So I'm going to be selecting segment number 1, segment number 2, and segment number 3 over here. So now that I have all 3 highlighted, I'm going to double click, and then I'll get my complex change. So you double click, after you select the 3 segments, you double click on the left side of the mouse, and then you click on the right side of the mouse, and then you will get out of the command, and you will get your complex chain, as you can see in here. And before you continue, always make sure that all of your lines are grouped in a complex chain, because if they're not grouped, it will be harder for you to just like track down what you did wrong when you create your vertical alignment. So now that we have the complex chain, we can go ahead into the inroads section of this chapter and create our vertical alignment. So right now, as you can see, I don't have the inroads pop up. You can either go to applications over here and then just do whatever you want in inroads in here, or you can go to tools, go to explore, show and hide, and that will give you the inroads pop up. And as you can see, I don't have the tutorial or the DTM open. So I'm gonna open those first. I'm gonna open tutorial.alg, which is the alignment file, and then the DTM file. And now you can see under geometry, I have tutorial, and then under surfaces, I have my OG. My OG is set active, and then under geometry, I need to make sure that my east bond on is set active before I start working on it. So first we're gonna go to Inroads, import geometry, and then we're gonna create the vertical alignment for east bond on. We have parabolic in here, and then we're gonna click apply. Once you click apply, it will ask you in here to identify the element. What you need to identify is the complex chain. So I'm gonna click on the complex chain, and then once I identified it, I'm gonna accept the command. And now I have my complex chain. I'm gonna close it. So if I go under tutorial, mine was east bond 00 for some reason. So if you see, I have east bond 00, which is what I just created. So I'm just gonna leave it like that. Okay, now that we have our vertical alignment, we're gonna set it as active. Or we can go to Inroads, Geometry, View Geometry, Active Vertical. Now we're gonna go to Inroads, Geometry, Vertical Curve Set, Define Curve. And this is just to let the program know that we have 2 curves that need to be included. We need to include within the vertical alignment, which are the 500 and the 600 ones. The curve number 1 and curve number 2. So as you can see, the first one, the length, it should be 600, which is the first curve. And as you can see here, the first curve is at station 14 plus 82.30 and elevation 3001.4034, which is the first intersection point that we created. Next, it will be around the second intersection point that we created, and the length of the curve would be 500. Once we're done, we're going to click apply and close, and that way we can like identify that these 2 curves are part of the vertical alignment. As you can see, the color of these curves changed. Make sure to always save your project. You don't want to lose anything you've been working on. Now we're gonna try to show the annotations. One problem with Inroads the new version is that following these steps, as far as I know, won't allow you to show the annotations. I'm gonna try to follow these steps and see if I can see the annotations. So I'm gonna try right now, but we'll see what happens. So we're gonna go to Inroads, Geometry, View Geometry, and then we're gonna add the annotations. So I know that the new template is different than the old template that is shown in the book, but I'm gonna try to follow the book template as much as I can. And as I said, we'll see if we're gonna get annotations or not. So first we're gonna go to points. You have all of these points in here. So one thing I would recommend doing is just look at all of these points in here and try to find these points here and just select the point, station, and elevation. We'll see what happens. So we have PVC. I'm gonna click point, station, elevation because apparently we don't have the text. So I'm just gonna add those in here. We have PVI, PVT, high point over here, low point, PVC point. Well, PVC point, we already clicked on it. PVI point, we already did it. PVT, high point, low point, and all the other fields are checked out. So I think we're good in here. We're gonna select curves and then we're gonna follow figure 963 over here. Let me make it a little bit bigger so we can follow that one in here. So I know it's different, but as you can see, a lot of these points you can find in here. So we have type, direction, length, PVI, PVC, PVI length, PVI, PVT length. We have entrance grade, exit grade, middle distance, I believe it's middle ordinate, and site distance. So for site distance, I'm just gonna go for sag and crest site. So for the position, I'm just gonna put it under row and then position, it's the same. So we have type, it's gonna be 7, direction 6, length 5, 4. I'm sorry, these are 1. This is for the PVI PVT length is 3, entrance grade is 2, exit grade as 1, middle ordinate we're gonna put it as -1, and these two site distances we're gonna put both of them as -2. And then for the position we have the entrance grade and exit grade different, so we have 1, 2, 3. So we're gonna change that to 1, 2, 3, and I believe that would address the comments in here. In the tangent section, we have grade, we need to check grade, and then the rest we're gonna follow figure number 964. So as you can see, we have grade checked in, position is the same. This is 50%, midpoint, and then 0. I'm gonna go to curve and make sure that these are also the same. So now that we are done, we're gonna click apply and close. So as you can see, we're supposed to get something similar to figure 965. I'm not sure what we're getting, but let me check. Or not. Yep, we did not get the annotations following the steps, but I believe having your vertical alignment here means that you already have the vertical alignment. I'm not really sure about the annotations. I tried to do multiple things in Inroads, but the problem is that with a new version of Inroads, there is this new version. There is the incorporation of open roads. So a lot of the annotations you need to do through open roads, and we don't have open roads. But for now, this is how you create the vertical alignment for eastbound on ramps. Just very similar to what we did for eastbound on ramp. You're gonna follow the same steps in the book. It's gonna be very similar to the one that we did for the rest, whether it be the Laguna Canyon eastbound off, and then we have westbound off and westbound on. I believe eastbound off, you can't create the vertical alignment for it. Make sure you check the additional notes. It says in the additional notes that you cannot create the vertical alignment for it, but make sure that you have, like, even if you don't have the vertical alignment, you have the shape, the geometry of the vertical alignment, just as we did in here. Okay, and I believe that would be